This is Mike Spreitzer from Verona on Venus, and today we are going to talk about one of my favorite bands, Nine Inch Nails.
Nine Inch Nails. We've not seen them on this series yet, so it is high time to talk about Nine Inch Nails and their legacy and influence on you, especially with what you've been putting out now with Verona and Venus. So lots to talk about. But maybe just get started at the start, because this is a band, obviously, crazy legacy, has been around for a long time, come and gone, obviously, throughout the years. How did you discover that band?
MTV. I might have seen the Head Like a Hole video, but I don't remember seeing it before. The first thing I remember being introduced to them was watching MTV and seeing the video for Wish. Absolutely blown away. You know, the chaos of the video, the darkness. That's a guitar tone in that song that I think a lot of people would still have a hard time replicating, even these days. I've done internet searches on how Trent has how he got that tone. I haven't really tried to replicate it. I'm not going to try to replicate it, but I'm just interested on how he got that, because it's like a combination of a synth and a heavily distorted guitar. But that was one of the moments in my life that led to my love for, industrial and goth.
Yeah.
And I went out and I bought the Broken record, the EP, and a few years later, Downward Spiral came out and just elevated my love for that band.
Yeah. And you went down the downward spiral of industrial music in a sense at that point. Because I remember from last time we spoke that as a Belgian, I am aware of them, obviously, but the broader masses might not be. But you shared with me that you love a band called Front 242, which is, a Belgian electronic industrial, not metal, but definitely an influence on later than the KMFDMs and the Ministries and the Nine Inch Nails. So that's really where it all started for you. That was a whole new world that you discovered because of Nine Inch Nails.
I'm not 100% sure if I heard. I could probably just go look to see when the albums were released, but it was a combination of Psalm 69 by Ministry and Nine Inch Nails. And as I got older, I got introduced. It was hard to find industrial bands back then. They didn't. From time to time, they played stuff, in that vein on Headbangers Ball on MTV, but it was mostly straightforward metal.
Yeah.
And one of my brother's friends introduced me. Luckily, my brother was the type of brother that would take me out. He was older than me and get me drunk with his friends. And he had a friend named Justin that was driving me from party to party, and he was playing the album Extort by KFDM. And so that was another moment in my life where I was like, okay, wow. And we had quite a few small record stores where I grew up in LA. And some of them did have an industrial section.
Okay.
And you can go and grab the CD. They'd let you listen to it. And there's a lot of bad industrial out there. There's a lot of bad industrial. But there is some good stuff too. And I feel like a lot of the stuff from the 90s was kind of
the golden age.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. There are some bands out there these days. Like I really like Three Teeth. I think they're doing it right.
Right.
Unfortunately, I can't really mention too many other bands in the industrial realm that I actually like other than them.
Yeah. Their album came out a year ago, I guess, something like that. Their last album.
Yeah, one of my favorite records by them too. They did a damn good job on this new one.
Yeah, that was a good one. So before we, go into the ebbs and flows of industrial and goth music and how it has inspired you and what you're doing now, Verona and Venus, let's stick to Nine Inch Nails for 1 second. You already mentioned that the discovery was through Wish. Is that, if I were to, pressure you to give me 3 songs of them that really are special to you? Is that one of them?
Without a doubt, yes. I would say Sin from Pretty Hate Machine would be another one. And if we're gonna stick within that realm, like I really like the song Last,
Okay.
which is the third song on the Broken EP, and finally got to see him play that live. It's not, I don't think it's something that Trent usually puts in their set list, but the last time I saw Nine Inch Nails was, I think they did 4 or 5 days at the Hollywood Palladium in a row.
Okay.
And every day was a different set list. And luckily I picked the day, which if I remember correctly, I think it was day 3, where everything that they played on the set list was from the Downward Spiral, the Broken EP, or Pretty Hate Machine. They didn't play anything after that. I was in heaven because those are my 3. I love the Fragile too. I think that's a great record, but the 3 before that, those are the ones that really hit home for me.
You mentioned the Fragile. I first saw them play. I mean, growing up in Europe, I may have had less chances purely on a count than you to see them live. But my first time was when they were promoting the Fragile. I think they were playing the Rock Werchter Festival, which is like a huge rock festival in Belgium. And that's when they just released the Fragile, I think. And so it definitely made an impression on me. I think that same day was Monster Magnet, Marilyn Manson, Metallica, and Korn, or something like that. Was a pretty good day for the late 90s. Yeah, for sure. Because I think this was 99. I could be wrong.
Yes, it was, because the Fragile, I bought it off a friend that didn't like it. It was a double disc, and I just started college, and one of my friends that moved up to Santa Barbara with me, his brother came up and he's like, I don't like it. You want to buy it off me? I was like, of course I will.
Yeah.
So I bought it off him, and that was in 99.
Yeah. I remember at the festival had like a CD shop at the festival with only CDs of bands that were playing, and I bought the album at the festival. Well, that's awesome. When was the first time you saw them live?
I saw them, oh God, I want to say it was 2004, 2005.
Okay.
I had to drive all the way up to Fresno, which is not a short drive for me. I think it was somewhere between 4 and 6 hours.
Oh, wow.
And I had my first tour with DevilDriver. I had a guitar tech named Matt, and his dad worked for Nine Inch Nails. I believe he was Trent's guitar tech. I'm not 100% sure. But he got me into the show and also got me into a meet and greet. So I actually got to meet Trent that day.
Oh, wow.
Grab a picture. I almost forgot to take a picture with him, too. And he was actually on his way out, and I yelled at him. And I was like, dude, I'm not done with you yet.
The days before smartphones.
Yeah. And he came back, and I got my picture with Trent. I was probably 23, 24 years old.
Yeah.
And that was when Aaron North was in the band. He wasn't in the band very long as their guitar player. And I'm glad that I got to see Nine Inch Nails with Aaron North, because he was kind of one of the more energetic guitar players that Trent has ever hired. And I believe they had another record out with Teeth, I think. I think it was on that on that record cycle. Don't quote me on that. I can't remember for sure, but it was a great show.
Nine Inch Nails had the highs and lows, to say the least. They went through the roller coaster. You've been on roller coasters yourself with DevilDriver. You've seen a lot. Now you take all of that with you in Verona on Venus. You said yourself just now, like, oh, that's one of the more energetic guitar players that Trent hired. I could start the discussion: was Nine Inch Nails a band or a project? How from a musical perspective, I think there's clear influences, but from the concept of a band or a project or a story, how has that band and Trent specifically influenced you then for Verona on Venus?
How he's influenced me is kind of a hard question to answer. It's there. It's definitely inside there somewhere. So you're gonna hear the Nine Inch Nails influence within Verona on Venus. There's no doubt about that.
Mm-hmm.
I like his approach to electronics. It's in the way that he makes his synth sound, and with DevilDriver, it was nothing. There was no place in DevilDriver for that whatsoever. But I had always written stuff on the side just for fun, for music libraries. And now that when I started working on Popular Delusions, and it's like I wasn't sure if I was going to go for a more electronic sound or not.
Okay.
It's Popular Delusions is a bit of an experiment for me. I hadn't quite found my footing with Verona. And at some point, Monarch Acid Test was one of the last songs that I worked on. And I put it on there because I didn't want to have 8 songs. I wanted 9.
Right.
I would have liked 10, but I was like, 9's good enough. And it was one of the easier songs for me to record vocally.
Okay.
It's turned out to be a fan favorite. And by the end of that record, I had this little epiphany where I thought to myself, why am I not making the music that I really, really love? Like, why am I tap dancing around these other genres that I like? But I'm not really doing what I really want to do. Part of me was saying you should be doing this because this is what you should be doing. Right. And I was trying very hard to get away from anything that could possibly resemble DevilDriver. I didn't want it to sound anything like that. If there was stuff I wrote where I was like, okay, that sounds too much like DevilDriver, can't use that. I'll just put that away for the next DevilDriver record, and just keep writing until I find something. And like I said, Trent has his own way of utilizing electronic sounds in his music, and I spent a little time studying it on what his approach, as well as other bands too, like KMFDM and Ministry, and then part of it just sitting in front of my computer, messing with sounds until I find something I like. And a lot of the times it's just find a sound and then just overload it with distortion and gain, and that just in the long run makes me happy.
I mean, both Nine Inch Nails and DevilDriver at times, I think, have taught you also what an unhealthy way of being a creative person in this world can be. From that perspective, are there lessons that you've learned as you've matured that you want to live by now that you are taking on so much on your shoulders alone? Like in DevilDriver, no matter if you were just playing music or if you were actually writing songs as well as one of the band members, in a band to some extent, you can kind of, you can escape or disappear in the collective if needed. You won't be able to do that in Verona on Venus ever.
Well, as far as lessons that I've learned that of mistakes that I would say either I've made or as a collective being in DevilDriver has made with our previous records is our writing process was usually a little rushed. Not always, but I remember when we did Beast and we finally got into the studio, I was still learning how to play some of the riffs that I wrote.
Right.
It was kind of like go on tour, have a break, spend that time writing, go back on tour, try to write some new stuff while you're on the road, which can be very difficult depending on what kind of venues you're playing. Come home, get together with the guys, and I'm mostly talking about, the days with Jeff Kendrick, John Miller, and John Berkland and Dez. And Dez was never around for the writing process as far as the music goes. I think he was a fair amount on the first record, but I wasn't on the first record. I think that was a little bit of a different scenario on how they went about writing that record. But as time went on, for the most part, we would write the music, send it to Dez, he would do his thing and record it, and that would be that.
Right.
I don't want to do that anymore. And luckily, I'm the vocalist, also the main, songwriter. So I can do both, and I could, I change things a lot. You sit with things, and then after a while, especially, listening to stuff in your car, or at least for me, is the best way to cut out of music that you're working on. You might like it one day, but after you listen to it like 5, 10, 20 times, whatever, you go, no, that could be better. That's starting to bug me, or you just have a better idea. 2, I have a band now, consisting of Lucas, Neil, and Austin. And I feel like I do write better music when I'm collaborating with people.
Okay.
Even if they're not bringing anything to the table, I just need somebody there to tell me, okay, dude, do you like A, B, or C better? And it just overwhelmingly B. Go with B. Thank you. And then I can stop thinking about it, because I'll spend an hour where it's just, as long as you're working with people that you trust their opinion.
Right. You don't want to have an echo chamber.
Yeah. And also not surrounding yourself with yes people. Like these are 3 people that would say, if that sucks, they're going to tell me it sucks, or just, you could do better.
Right.
And if I hit a roadblock, I can hand a guitar to Neil, I can hand a guitar to Lucas, and just be like, dude, will you come up with something? And they'll come up with something that I would have thought of. I do feel like we really hit it home, I think, with a lot of DevilDriver songs. There's a lot of good DevilDriver material out there that I'm very, very proud of. But also, I do think there's some stuff out there that we wrote that could have been, maybe 10, 20% better.
Yeah.
If we weren't rushed and spent a little bit more time in pre-production with our producer, playing the songs together. Most of the time, we never played the songs together.
Right.
Before we went in the studio. It was just demoing them in my house, programming drums, take it to the studio. John Berkland would do all the drums, start doing guitars, might make some changes here and there. And, a lot of times, especially when we were in El Paso, as we did 3 records there, Dez would be in his room writing vocals as we were working on the music. We never did pre-production with our producer until dealing with Demons 1 and 2. Like,
right.
Steve Evans insisted on us being, like, no, we're going to go spend 2 weeks and we're going to work on these songs as a band.
Yeah.
And it was just me, Austin, and Neil and Steve. But it made a big difference. And I couldn't stop thinking to myself, like, why didn't we do this in the past?
To go back to the new music that you're going to be releasing, we get obviously clearly the industrial side to that, but there is, you mentioned before already, there is the goth element as well, or the dark rock side of things as well. And 9 Inch Nails, definitely an affinity with that, but I wouldn't necessarily call 9 Inch Nails a goth band. Industrial metal has had a rough time, it seems. The 90 days, the 90s have come and gone, and we haven't seen a whole ton of like exciting new stuff. Maybe it feels like with goth rock that also came and went, and arguably, came and went before industrial metal. There's some cool stuff popping up all over, and all very different. But I don't know if you had a chance to check out the new Unto Others album, which was a cool album with a lot of goth sides. We just have Cemetery Skyline that came out with members of Dark Tranquillity and Amorphis and Omnium Gatherum all together playing goth rock. Where do, because I'm going to assume that they're not necessarily from Trent. Which were the biggest influences for you on that side of the music?
The biggest one was Sisters of Mercy. And that was one thing that I could implement into DevilDriver a little bit. You can hear some of the stuff that I wrote that definitely was Sisters influenced me a little bit. So that's where that came from. I was always more of an industrial fan than I was a goth fan.
Yeah.
I would say it was always like a 70-30 type of thing. And a lot like industrial, there's a lot of bad goth bands out there. But Sisters was great. There was another band too that I kind of feel like is a hybrid of the two called Project Pitchfork.
Okay. Not familiar.
They're a German band and they've been around a very, very long time. But yeah, as far as other influences besides Sisters of Mercy, Rosetta Stone, that was another one who actually just started releasing music again. Believe it or not, I'm not that much of a Cure fan. Everyone is always kind of shocked by that statement. Like you should think Robert Smith is God, but I like him. I just don't love him.
Yeah,
but
I liked the Cure songs as a kid, just going through my parents' record collection until I actually saw the Cure play live one time, and I think not ashamed to say it was probably the two most boring hours of my life. Just kind of standing there, expecting that obviously they would play a Forest, which they didn't do. And I remember being just as like I was 14 years old or something like that. But I just so disappointed with that because it had rained and I was cold, and I just wanted them to play a Forest, but it never came. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm not a fanboy of the Cure, if you will.
Neither am I, but I've tried. I've spent time listening to them. I got a lot of friends that are into them. My oldest brother and sister would play them a lot when I was young, but like I said, I like them, but I just don't love them.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
The Cure is definitely not an influence for me.
All right. We'll not expect any antics of the Cure when we see you play live. And unlike Sisters of Mercy, you will actually have a drummer, I assume, when you're on stage. I
would never be in a band without a drummer. It's just there's nothing wrong with it, but I just finally saw Sisters of Mercy for the first time about a year ago, and I knew it was just going to be a drum machine. That's fine, but for me, no, I need a live drummer.
Yeah.
It's just I would feel like there's something missing if I didn't have one, and plus. Part of the reason I put Verona on Venus together is because I wanted to continue playing music with Neil and Austin.
Yeah.
Ever since the thought in my mind came up of starting a new project, I immediately was hoping in my mind that Austin and Neil would be a part of it. And luckily, I just handed the songs off to Austin. He did a great job playing them. And when Neil and his wife were they were moving out of LA, so me and Priscilla, my fiance, took him out to dinner, and at that dinner, Neil asked me if he could be in Verona. I was like, of course. I was about to ask you the same thing. So everything's coming together very nicely.
So when can we see this come together nicely on stages?
Early next year. That's my goal.
All right. Awesome. We'll keep our eyes open and our fingers crossed for shows announced well beyond the West Coast, hopefully up here in Toronto.
There will be, Toronto is definitely a place I want to stop because, as far as DevilDriver goes, I don't know how Toronto is going to react to Verona on Venus, but Toronto was one of our best markets. It's where I saw my first DevilDriver tattoo, and shows at the Opera House were almost always sold out.
Yeah.
So Toronto will be on my list. Unfortunately, it's a bit far away from LA, but I will be doing an LA show, and I want to get 5 to 10 shows under our belt before I hop on a tour. And
for sure,
it won't be a headlining tour. I will be looking for someone to take us out.
Yeah. Well, if all of that falls into place, then you'll be a well-oiled machine when the summer festivals come around. So
Yes.
let's.
And we did get some offers for summer festivals, and I was like, I'm not ready yet. Hit me back next year.
All right, we'll keep our eyes open for that. Mike, thank you so much for opening the door a little and letting us, look in to see where all that creative juice comes from, and thanking for highlighting the importance of Nine Inch Nails and Trev for everyone. Thank you so much. We look forward to more music coming our way, and then if you're not coming to Toronto in the first few months, then we'll just have to find a way to come to you. Thank you so much, and I am super excited for what's next.
Thank you for having me.
You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.